Okay, so I missed a video yesterday because I forgot that it was going to be Thanksgiving. Like I seriously was thinking about doing a video like on Thursday, and I don't know why I forgot it was Thanksgiving. I suspect it was because it happened so late in the month compared to usual. I mean, here it is. It's already November 29th, and Thanksgiving was just yesterday. So Thanksgiving is one of those weird holidays where, like, since it's supposed to take place like on the last Thursday, like sometimes there can be like almost a whole week afterwards, and sometimes it's like so it could be like 2 weeks into to 2 or 3 weeks into November, and all of a sudden it's Thanksgiving. But then it just wants to drag its feet whenever the last Thursday is, and oh, it's like the third to last day of the month. Here you go. Here's your Thanksgiving, I guess. So I guess that was why I was kind of out of the loop as far as Thanksgiving goes, and I wound up going over to my sister's place for Thanksgiving, which meant that I went over to my mom's place the night before Thanksgiving that I got off of work so early Thanksgiving morning, and I just slept over there until it was time to go to my sister's house because my sister's house does not have a lot of space for parking. So I usually like to ride over there with my mom and my other sister. We all ride over there together, and it's like so I went over there and had Thanksgiving dinner, and then like I was still really tired, so I took like a really long nap, and by that time it was time that everybody's leaving. So then I came back to the house. I came back to my house and I took another nap because I was still tired. Just did not have time to do anything yesterday. That is the story of that. So we have the second of the two Superman villains that I was talking about, and of course I teased him in the last video. So here is Brainiac from Injustice 2. There's a nice picture of Brainiac from the video game on the back. And like I always say with video game action figures, I don't really play video games. So if I bought this guy, it was basically on its own merits, and I'm going to judge this figure on its own merits. So you're going to hear me say some things where like, I like this part of the design, I don't like this part of the design, and you're going to say, hey, well, that's how it was in the video game. And I'm going to be like, I didn't play the video game, so that's not really relevant to me, I just bought it because I wanted a Brainiac action figure. So any complaints or compliments that I'm going to have about this figure is going to be based solely on it's an action figure of Brainiac rather than any specific version of Brainiac that I'm not familiar with. Although I do have some interesting things to say about this design. I think they're interesting things to say anyway. Some interesting things that I've observed about this design. We're going to get into that. So there's a better look at the figure now that he's out of the package. Set that aside. And we've got our trading card and our figure stand. Unfortunately, not on the same bubble as I like them, but whatever. We'll take what we can get. The standard matte black DC Multiverse figure stand with a glossy black DC logo on it. Every figure should come with a figure stand these days. There's no excuse for them not to. Also, I should point out that this is not the DC logo that DC apparently is going to be using going forward. Apparently, James Gunn decided to take the DC logo back to the old one from the 70s, 80s, and 90s that I grew up with, which would be something I would actually agree with James Gunn on and say that he made a good decision as far as that goes. Because I do feel like that's the best DC logo. It's certainly the most distinct. So while I might have some criticisms about some other things that James Gunn has done as the head of DC Studios, that is something I will actually agree with him on and give him props. So there's the trading card, and we can see it's the same image of Brainiac from the back of the package. I don't know if it's appropriate to call it a piece of art. I mean, I guess it is a piece of art. An artist designed it, didn't they? But it's still like it's a still from the video game. I can't really call it a photograph either because it's not really nobody took a picture with a camera. It's just the model from the video game, but he looks cool. So I'm not complaining. I'm just saying I'm kind of stumbling over what to call it, I guess. Then here's what the back looks like. Pretty standard for what we've come to expect from these trading cards. And it says Brainiac, Injustice 2, data file, real name, Vril Docs. Originally from the planet most frequently named Kalu, Brainiac's artificial mind and body have been morphed several times over the decades, but his unquenchable thirst for absolute knowledge, regardless of the billions of innocent lives which might be destroyed in the process, has made him one of the deadliest villains in the universe. Oh, I'm sorry. One of the deadliest villains the universe has ever seen. For Brainiac, the knowledge he acquires is not only valuable. For Brainiac, the knowledge he acquires is only valuable if he alone possesses it and no one else. For if knowledge is power, where is he? He was just here. Where are you, smarty bastard? Oh, yeah, he is. For if knowledge is power, then a god am I. Was that over the top? I can never tell. Okay, so enough of that guy. We got enough people who are too smart for their own good here with Brainiac. We don't need to bring the Riddler into the mix. But I just couldn't help but think of that. So Brainiac has a few accessories, and it's these tentacles, which of course are held in with rubber tabs, because God forbid anything not be held in with rubber tabs. I can kind of understand it with these, though, because they are rather thin, and it'd be difficult to, get these in the package in such a way where they wouldn't fall out without strapping them in some way. So this is actually going to be an example where I'm not going to complain about the rubber tabs. I can see how they might be necessary in this case. Maybe not quite so many rubber tabs. I think one on each would do it rather than having, two or more. Where did I put that thing? I just took it out and I just set it down somewhere. Is that it? Did it fall behind something? No, that's something else. Okay, well, I'm going to pull out my keyboard stand and start setting them there. I don't want to lose any more of them. Did I already cut the tabs for this one? I believe I did. At least I cut the tab that I could reach, because the other one was actually underneath the action figure. Thankfully, it was in such a position where I was able to pull it out rather easily. Anyway, there we go. So now we got all four of my tentacles out of the box, but I don't know where I put that first one. I can't seem to find where I placed it. There it is. It's kind of gray and it blended in with a bunch of other stuff. So we got all four of those tentacles. We definitely want to have those. Now the tentacles, I'm not sure where the tentacles originally came from on Brainiac. I guess that he had some on the animated series because he could extend his fingers, kind of like tentacles. But I think the first one that really had tentacles was the one that they designed in the early 2000s in the comic book. And I forget what they called that one. They might have actually called it Brainiac 2000, because they like to call things whatever 2000 back around 1998 or so. And I remember even an episode of South Park they did in 1990, a whole season of South Park they did in 1999. Every episode was something like, Trapper Keeper 2000 or something like that. They just put the word 2000 on it. So he's got another rubber tab that's around his foot, and that wouldn't be so bad except for this little lip that you see at his ankle, and that's what got caught on this rubber tab. Oh, Jesus. All right, so now we have Brainiac out of the package. And a couple of things I'm going to say about this Brainiac just off the bat. And I'm talking about the figure here. I'm not talking about his design in the video game, because I'm not sure if that really applies to the way he's designed in the video game. Because to me, it looks almost more like he's supposed to be kind of like a gunmetal gray. But this Brainiac is clearly supposed to be silver, and they put this kind of black wash over him. And I don't think that works very well. It kind of just makes him look like dirty and tarnished. I think it's supposed to bring out some of the detail, and sometimes a wash like that does bring out a lot of the detail. It works really well. But here on Brainiac, it makes his silver look rather dingy, and I don't know if that was the best choice. So I'm thinking I'm probably going to try to clean some of this stuff off, like maybe get some Brasso or something and try to polish it down. If I was able to polish down some of the surface areas and not get the nooks and crannies that they obviously originally intended for the wash to get into, I think that might have more of the intended effect that they were going for. So I think that might be a smart thing to do. So for kids my age, I say kids, I'm talking about when I was growing up. This would have been like the late 70s, early 80s, on through the entirety of the 80s, really. I was 13 in 1989. So yeah, right when I was on the cusp of adulthood, that's when the 80s became the 90s, and I officially became a teenager. So yeah, but yeah, for kids growing up during the time that I grew up, there would have been two versions of Brainiac that we were familiar with, and technically there would have been three up to that point. But the very first appearance version of Brainiac is so obscure he kind of fell off a cliff. So not a lot of people remember him at all. The only people that remember the original version of Brainiac are like really hardcore comic book fans like myself. And even then, there was a prototype version of Brainiac from the comic strip, but he wasn't called Brainiac yet. I don't remember what that character was called. It was some weird alien sounding name. But if you saw the storyline of it, it's pretty obvious he's like the original version of Brainiac. He's got the same sort of like wires around his head and everything, even though it's a mostly different design. So, hello, Daniel Evans. I hope you got all that glass out of your face. Hopefully you didn't have to go to the hospital or anything. Oh, man. For those of you who missed the last episode, Daniel Evans told me he was having to dig glass out of his face, and I'm like, God, poor guy. So, but hopefully he's doing better now. I have to imagine he's doing better now. Otherwise, like, yeah. Anyway, so you would have had the not original version of Brainiac, but we'll call him the classic version of Brainiac, where he basically looked like a guy, like a light green colored guy with electrodes around his head and a pink polo shirt, black booty shorts, and white go-go boots. And that's what Brainiac looked like when I first saw him. And if you saw my video on the unboxing of the Superpowers version of Brainiac, you've seen that version of Brainiac. You know the one I'm talking about. Now, the second version of Brainiac, most of us would have remembered from when we were kids, people my age, would have been the original Superpowers version of Brainiac. And that was one where they completely redesigned him, and they'd gone, like, basically steered into the swerve on the whole robot thing. Originally, Brainiac was not supposed to be a robot. He was supposed to be an alien. He had wires in his head, but he was supposed to be like an organic alien. And something really weird happened where, like, there was already like a toy computer called Brainiac. And I guess DC was, the people working on the comic, I guess they were unaware or just didn't care that there was already a toy called Brainiac. And the people who made the toy Brainiac, which again, toy computer, they basically went to DC and were like, hey, we're going to sue you because you took our name, unless you give us credit for coming up with the name Brainiac and make your character Brainiac into a computer. So that's how Brainiac became a robot. And they always called him a computer, but he's a computer that walked around on two legs and looked like a person. So robot, really. But, whatever keeps him from getting sued, I guess. So yeah, Brainiac didn't look like a robot originally because he wasn't originally supposed to be a robot. That was a retcon. And when they got into the 80s, I guess there was probably a lot of kids asking, hey, if he's a robot, why does he just look like a green guy? Why doesn't he look like a robot? So they're like, okay, let's redesign him to look like a robot. And plus, like I said, the Superpowers action figures were going to be coming out at that time. So, redesign him to look more like a robot, makes him a better action figure than a green guy in a pink polo shirt and black booty shorts and white go-go boots. So he's like, it's not the most intimidating costume I've ever seen on a supervillain. I'm just throwing that out there. So yeah, that version of Brainiac was designed to look much more like a robot, completely mechanical body that looked somewhat like a skeleton, even with a skull face and this big clear plastic brain dome on his head. He looked really cool, but was completely unrecognizable as Brainiac as we would have remembered him before. but I don't think any of us complained because it was a cool design, so we liked it anyway. And technically, the superpowers version, since in the comic book he had kind of like blue shading over him to represent the metallic color. They actually put like a light blue coating over the chrome on the original superpowers Brainiac, so he's this kind of light metallic blue metal skeleton thing with a big plastic brain pan on top, and he looks really cool. So we really liked that one. So I would say that of the many versions of Brainiac, most people who are my age are going to think about one of those two designs when they think about the character of Brainiac. And then you had Superman the Animated Series, which kind of brought back the original design of Brainiac, but also incorporated some more robot-like elements. So I feel like those are the versions of Brainiac that were mostly influences on this version. I can also see influences from the, like I said, the 2000 era version of Brainiac, and a little bit of the Jeff Johns version of Brainiac, where Gary Frank designed that one, where he's the diodes on his head. He's got those continuing throughout the body, and they did make those diodes light up pink, like pink lighting on them, and that kind of harkens back to the pink polo shirt that the original version of Brainiac wore. He's still got the pink incorporated into him. So I think overall, this is a really good design for Brainiac, and I really like it. It has a lot of elements of the various versions of Brainiac that I remember and have appreciated going back over the years and seeing various versions of this character. Like, obviously, like, he's got the green head with the diodes, the wires in it, like the Silver Age Brainiac. His mechanical body, very reminiscent of the 80s Brainiac, the original Superpowers Brainiac. You can see that they've given him some black portions on his body, and those kind of harken to the design of the Superman animated series, where it had like black stripes, like a metal kind of chest piece and a metal stripe coming down, two black stripes that came in on either side of that, and then the rest of his body was mostly purple. And then elements of some of the later versions of Brainiac. I do think the way his neck piece is done, that reminds me a lot of the Superman, the animated series version. So I like that one. So yeah, this is a good design. Let's go ahead and talk about his articulation before I put the tentacles on and we get the full effect of it. So Brainiac can look up about that far. He can look down about that far. He can tilt his head kind of quizzically from side to side, rotate the head all the way around, but it is going to kind of bump into that collar piece a little bit. Now, he does have these kind of rubbery shoulder plates here, and that's going to kind of hinder the articulation, but technically the arms do go all the way around. You just kind of work around those. They are flexible, so you can move around them fairly easily, but you can't really put his arms up too high without them bumping into those things. And if you don't want to warp them too much, you don't want to do that. Brainiac does have the butterfly joints, so his arms move back about that far and forward about that far. You can raise his arms up from side to side about that far. He does have a bicep swivel, so the bicep rotates all the way around. Brainiac does have double jointed elbows. Really good range of motion on those elbows, considering how bulky these arms are. It's like, that's some good engineering there. And of course, Brainiac has the cool sort of Mcfarlane torso articulation, where we can really move this torso around any which way we want. It should rotate all the way around at the waist, and technically it should rotate all the way around at the upper part of the torso, right underneath the rib cage, but it's jointed in such a way where it could, but it's just going to pump up against the sides of the rib cage. Brainiac can kick up about that far, and he is somewhat hindered by this rubber trunk piece that Mcfarlane tends to give their figures, but not as much as you might expect, so that's good. Brainiac has double jointed knees. That's about the range of motion you get at the knees. His legs are fairly bulky, so it's not going to give you as much as some other figures, and they do kind of ratchet around. And then I forgot to mention the wrist articulation. He's got the cool Mcfarlane wrist articulation that we're used to on these characters, so you can move these wrists around basically any which way you want. The wrists actually have some sculpting in them to incorporate them in with the rest of the armored pieces on the forearm and the hand. So good job with that. Brainiac's got a solid fist, and he's got a hand that looks kind of like it could be a gripping hand or a gesturing hand, but the way that these fingers are arranged, I can't imagine he'd be able to hold anything very well. But it's a cool looking hand. I like it. It's like we can get some cool poses out of him, and I like that. So let's go ahead and talk about these tentacles. Now these are kind of rubbery tentacles, but they're not bendy tentacles. They don't seem to have any kind of wire in them, unfortunately, which would be a really nice touch. And they are not identical. These are different types of tentacles. You can see that these both have kind of a similar claw on one end, but you can see the shapes of the tentacles themselves are different. They could have just made two identical tentacles like that, and I don't identical tentacles. that could be the name of a band. And same with these, you can see they've got these nasty looking spikes on the end, but they're not the same tentacle. They could have just given you two of each and be done with it. But no, they gave you like 4 separate tentacles. And I'm not sure how to put these together, because you don't really see the tentacles on the back of the package. And the plugs look the same. And like I said, I haven't ever played this video game. Like, I might have played a little bit of it like at a party or something like that, but I haven't really sat down and played this video game like in the way that you might. So let's go ahead and work the Google on our internet machine. I'm going to see how it fits together. So let's see. Mcfarlane, Brainiac. DC Multiverse, Mcfarlane, Brainiac. And to make sure I get the right one, I'm going to put Injustice. There was another Brainiac in the Page Punchers line, which I technically consider to be part of the Multiverse line, even though I don't know if it technically is. But I really didn't like that one. I didn't like any of the figures from that line. Apparently there's another version that's got more silver and purple on him. That's interesting. I did not know that. Is that a Chase figure? So there's one where like his torso is more of like a light blue, silver, and his arms are purple. I'm not sure if that's it's on Amazon. Why haven't I seen it on Amazon? I look for DC Multiverse on Amazon all the time. Okay, I missed some of their comments. MHD is here. Hi, MHD. He says, hello, I like this Brainiac design very much. Yeah, I'm pretty impressed with it. Like, I would really like to have a classic version of Brainiac, like the polo shirt version I keep making fun of. I would really like to have that one. And also the superpowers version of Brainiac. But like I said, I kind of feel like this one kind of splits the difference between both those designs, and I think it works really well. He has a cool conversation with Darkseid when they fight in the game. I will have to see if I can find that on YouTube. Daniel Evans says the living hookah. well, I hope you're not in too much pain. Poor guy. All right. Well, let's hope Daniel Evans has a speedy recovery from his unfortunate glass in the face incident. That was not fun. But yeah, I hope you're doing well. Yeah, so I clicked on the link that is supposed to go straight to Amazon where that figure was, but I'm not seeing it. So I'll have to do some research on that later. Right now, I just want to make sure I get the tentacles in right. And it looks like the claw tentacles go at the top and the spike tentacles go at the bottom. So let's go ahead. And I'm not sure which one goes on which side or if it even matters. But we'll go ahead and plug those in and see what I like the tentacles. I know that one of the Imaginext figures that I have of Brainiac that was designed on the Superman animated series version, that one came with a backpack with some tentacles on it too. So tentacles are just kind of a thing that's like now part of the Brainiac iconography, I suppose. And I'm not going to complain about that because, like I said, I kind of like the tentacles. So, all right. So there he is with all the tentacles in place. and I don't think they're supposed to be like posable, but you can still kind of move them around a little bit. It just kind of ratchets a little bit when you move it around. I do think it probably would have been better if they could have incorporated like some wires in this, and then you could have like bendy tentacles, and that could give you a little more in terms of posability. But they still look pretty cool, so it's not as bad as like one of the Marvel Legends Doctor Octopus figures I bought. One of the more recent ones, I opened them up, and then like what I thought were going to be bendy tentacles were just kind of like hard plastic tentacles that could not move at all, and that was very disappointing. MHD says if you type Dark Side trailer in YouTube, it's in the official trailer. Well, that'll make it easy for me to find. Cool, thanks. So, but yeah, like I said, I don't play a lot of video games, and if I did, I probably would have played the Injustice games right now, just because I really like the DC characters. But I do like a lot of the designs that I see coming out of the video games. Like I said, I bought all the Arkham figure games just because I thought those were good designs for those Batman characters. And you know, I hadn't really played those games, but I liked the designs, so I bought them. And likewise, I've had a few Injustice figures that I've opened here on this channel before, like, you know, Supergirl and Dr. Fate and Green Arrow. I think those are the ones that I did. And it's because I liked those designs, especially the Green Arrow was the one that I had that actually had the cap. And I always like Green Arrow with that Robin Hood cap. That to me is like what the character is supposed to be. But yeah, I'm really happy with this one, to the extent where I would say if they never made another Brainiac figure in the line, I would actually be happy with this one just being my #1 Brainiac figure, my only Brainiac figure. Now, that having been said, if they want to make, you know, the Silver Age Brainiac or the Bronze Age Brainiac, I'd be happy to have either one of those too. Hell, I wouldn't mind having like the post-crisis version, not the goofy one in the pink jumpsuit, where you look like a fat guy, but the one from Panic in the Sky, where he had the black outfit with the purple cape and he had like the blonde goatee. I liked that design. That one was pretty good. So, you know, or if they want to do the Superman animated series version in Multiverse, it wouldn't be the first time they've done an animated version in Multiverse, and that would be one I would think will look really sharp in that way. I always really liked that design, so that was a really cool one. But I would not be disappointed if this was like my only Brainiac that I got. If they never make another Brainiac again, I'm satisfied with this one. So this one's really cool. So I'll be back probably tomorrow. I'll probably be back tomorrow. And since I didn't get to do a whole lot of videos this week like I really wanted to, I think it'd probably be a good idea if I did one more tomorrow. And I do really want to open up, did I still have it over here? Or did I move it somewhere? I had that bazooka figure that I need to open up. Is he maybe behind me? I know there's stuff behind me. No, that's paints. Somewhere around here. And I know I was digging around for something earlier, and this whole area is just so cluttered right now. But I have that bazooka figure from G.I. Joe. I really want to open up that one. So that's the classic bazooka, for those of you keeping score. And I already opened the Tiger Force version of bazooka a while back, and just now finally got around to getting the classic style bazooka. So we'll have that. I think I'll have that to open for you next, wherever I put it. If I can't find it by then, I might open up something else. But I was pretty sure I had them over here somewhere. But like I said, I was digging around with a bunch of stuff, so it might have gotten moved anywhere at this point. So, and then I've got a lot more DC Multiverse stuff to open. I've still got like some stacks of stuff over here I need to get around to opening. So if you want to make sure you don't miss any of that fun stuff and more fun stuff that I got on the way, make sure that you like and subscribe. Other fun YouTube stuff down below. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think about Brainiac, both this figure and the character in general. Obviously, he's one of the greatest of all Superman villains, and definitely one you want to have represented in your collection in some way or another. But do you think that this is the best way to represent Brainiac in your collection? Can you think of another design of Brainiac that you would rather have? And if so, which design of Brainiac would you rather have? I'm interested to hear what you have to say. We will talk to you next time. Bye.